Okay, I'd like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of the Council of Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everyone virtually this evening to have with us. The second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest, and I'll ask any member if they have pecuniary interest they'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda, no open forum and no delegations, and no public meeting. So that moves on to item 7. Report of municipal officers and committees, and 7.3, which is an infrastructure and development report, a staff report on McNabb Street reconstruction tender award, and the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Full construction of McNabb Street from Highway 21 to Peel Street will replace the existing water main and surface works. It'll add curb and sidewalk and a new sanitary sewer. There'll be 6 new homes that front directly on McNabb, and the access to the future lands of that Camelot Estates subdivision will be done. Town staff work with the developer and the contractor to come up with the best price and scope, and this is the result. There's a bit of change on how we're going to fund it, but it's fair and equitable, and recommend moving forward.
Okay, I have a recommendation. I'll read it and then we can take questions or comments from members. It's recommended that council authorize that SMRS Construction Incorporated be awarded the contract for the McNabb Street reconstruction project in the amount of $965,471.80 plus applicable HST. I just for some reason lost the this thing. Let's do it. Anyway, you have the motion in front of you. I can't complete it because I can't see it. Is there any questions or comments to the recommendation? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Amanda, you said we're going to be widening it. Is that true?
Yeah, we're going to an urban standard.
Okay, so I mean, we'll have to deal with the creek that goes through there. Do we have a timeline for that? I know there's 2 businesses that are on there that will need to be notified. One's waiting to open up and should probably be in the next little bit with the opening, with the COVID openings. But do we have a timeline on when you're looking at having this done?
I don't know when it's going to start at the top of my head. There's fishery windows that we have to work around, but our standard practice is to put notice of construction once this is awarded out, and within 7 days of when it's starting, to let people know what it's going to be, proposed interruptions, and we also notify people of any service interruptions during construction.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Schreider.
Thank you, and through you. Thanks, Amanda. I guess I just have a question with regards to perhaps some of the, where you note further investigation for dewatering options, and then we have a reduced price of just over, $850,000. I'm familiar with some projects where we've went other routes for dewatering. Is there any risk here that we're causing? We've lowered our price and that we might run into some issues down the road, and if proper dewatering is not done on these sites, that it will cost us more in the long run?
I don't believe so. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the site investigation was done with the developer's engineer and engineering staff. So they went out and looked at the groundwater conditions and felt that they were not, it wasn't requiring well points, so that they can move forward without actually doing the well points in this instance. So it may slow them down as a potential, but I don't believe that we'll have a cost increase because of that.
Further questions for the Director? Seeing none, you've seen the recommendation. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so that then moves us on to communications and petitions for Committee of the Whole action, and there is one item there, a letter from Greg Schmaltz, the President of the Beachers Organization, with regard to a memorial park request for John Kyles, and we'll take direction from the committee. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I certainly would appreciate if this was sent back to staff for a staff report and recommendation. I hope to see the recommendation come back, naming the parkette after John Kyles, a truly good friend, longtime friend. Remember visiting with John in the last few days with us, and I asked John said to me, he says, Mike, have I made a little difference here in Saugeen Shores? And I said, John, you you made a huge difference. You impacted change, and you always did things with a smile. John was a true gentleman and a leader in our community, and certainly did some great work with Port Algon Saugeen Beaches Association. I think he brought a whole new meaning to what the spirit of cooperation means between a community group and council and staff. John was non-confrontational. He was just a real good guy, and he, whether it was lobbying for beach groomer or new garbage containers, improvements at the Gobles Grove washroom, or whatever it may be. John had lots of chats over the years, and truly a remarkable man. And I know Marilyn, his wife was very supportive of John over the years with all of the things he did for our waterfront. So I think this is truly, this is the right thing to do, for the County Road 25 at the base there for the parkette, naming that after John Kyle. So I would hope, Mr. Mayor, we can send this back to staff for a recommendation and with a few more details in terms of what that park may look like and signage and so on and so forth. So that would be my thought, to send it back to staff for a recommendation.
So I take it then that the Vice Deputy Mayor is moving this be referred to staff for a report. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Rich seconds it. And I just echo my support for what the Vice Deputy Mayor has said. I think it would be wholly appropriate to name the parkette after John Kyles. And certainly I'd hope that any staff report we get back would make that recommendation. And it would be nice too, and the Vice Deputy Mayor alluded to it, to get a bit of an update on progress with regard to the development of that parkette and the stormwater outfall and all the work. I know Councillor Carr was leading the committee that was doing the work on that. And because of COVID-19, I think in large part we've sort of maybe lost the thread a little bit on that one. So it'd be good maybe when this comes back to hear some more about where we're at on that project and what we can expect to see going forward on it. So anyway, so we have a mover and seconder for the resolution to refer this to staff for a report. Is there anything further? If not, I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. So that moves us then on to communications and petitions for committee of the whole information, and there are 14 items there. Are there any comments or questions? Anybody want to raise anything about any of those? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to address the second letter from Mr. Steve Rowland. And I would like to ask our CAO, how is the COVID pandemic affecting plans for the CCB?
CAO.
Sure. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The project is progressing. The proponents continue to be excited about the potential that is coming. As all local business owners employing lots of local people, I suspect their focus has shifted a little bit to their local businesses over the past couple of months, but they are still very active. I had a discussion with one of them today. I also understand that they've started to reach out to community members to help with the aesthetic design or the aesthetic feel of the development. So that was a step they had committed to, and they're continuing to do that. So it's everything is progressing, albeit a couple of months behind, primarily due to the COVID-19 situation.
Okay, further comments, questions? Councillor Mayat.
Let's see if I can unmute. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to address the letter from Southampton Rotary, and just to acknowledge, I know that Tony Sheard, the district chairman for Rotary in this district in Ontario, was so much looking forward to, him and his wife are looking forward to hosting the Rotary conference at the Unifor Center this year, and it was going to showcase our community so well. But that event, like so many others, has been the victim of the COVID pandemic, and unfortunately they had to make it a virtual event, which will still go forward, and I hope they have great success with that. But what a great gesture they made to return the stipend that the town put forward to them, to return it for reallocation to a more appropriate cause. And that's just symbolic of everything that Rotary stands for. I'm currently categorized as a friend of Rotary in Southampton, and I keep in touch with some of their projects and their initiatives, and they do nothing but great things in our community. And this is just another example of that. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it would be appropriate for council to bear in mind that those funds have been returned to us and consider an appropriate way to spend those dollars and to acknowledge Rotary when we do. So I think I don't have an idea yet, but perhaps as we go through our work on recovery, that we'll have a project that money will fit, and we should bear that in mind. And thank you to the Rotary Club. Anything further on the items for information? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wanted to go back to the Steve Rowland letter. I wanted to commend Mr. Rowland. We don't always agree, this council, majority of us anyways, with some of the things that are being said with, coming out of Cedar Crescent Village and the Beachers Association, Beach Preservers, I should say. But I think there's some really good content in Mr. Rowland's letter, and there's one comment in there I wanted to speak to, and that was he's asking for the mayor and councilors each provide a detailed statement justifying their position moving forward. And I didn't want to ignore that comment. I think it's something he's asking us to do. I just want to make a statement that, I did make my statement. I made it very clear back in December, January, when we had the meeting up in the Rotary Hall. I think it was December, January, maybe earlier. Can't recall exact timing, but I think we all made our statements pretty clear that evening. There have been changes. The COVID-19 has brought about some change to the way maybe some people may be thinking with Cedar Crescent Village. We don't know that. We haven't heard. I certainly haven't heard a whole lot of update in terms of where they're standing with moving forward with the development. Maybe their thought process is changing a bit. I don't know. But I think for me, Mr. Rowland, to make a statement at this point in time, detailed statement justifying our position moving forward. I just don't have. I don't have enough information yet to make a, full statement on the development moving forward. I would need more information. If there's new information coming forth from the developers of Cedar Crescent Village, then hopefully we'll hear that soon. And then maybe I can readjust my statement. I don't know. So I just want to make that statement tonight that he was asking for a statement for all of councilors. Detailed statement justifying position, but I certainly am in no position to make that kind of statement tonight.
Okay, thank you. How about Councillor Carr?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, we're just going to go back and hit on the CCV project here again. I'm just wondering, maybe through you, Mr. Mayor, towards David, I'm guessing on this one here. I did send him an email and definitely want to thank him for his quick response back to me on my questions there. I guess I just wanted to follow up with two questions, though. I realize with the COVID, we are behind. I'm just wondering if we do have a solid timeline when we're expecting the CCV project to come forward to us with a proposal. Do we have any idea? I know you say we're a few months behind, so does that mean July, August? Does that mean September, October? Do we have a timeline there, I guess, first of all?
Yeah, so I would say there isn't a fixed timeline. I know that they're active, very active now. They are working with their consultants. They've started the aesthetic design work, which they committed to. We could certainly ask for an update. I don't want to speak on the proponent's behalf, but we could certainly get an update, and I'm sure they'd be delighted to provide that.
Okay, thank you. And one more question through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just curious too. I'm going to follow up again and ask. I'm just curious when we're going to see a financial report back presented to council on what the total site prep was worth.
Sure, I can give you a partial response now. So we did receive last week a invoice from the developer, or sorry, not the developer, from the company that did the removal of the derelict building, and it came in at $6,500. or 66, 65, somewhere in there. So well under $7,000 was the total out-of-pocket cost to remove the derelict building and make the site safe. So it was well under what we projected, and we're delighted with the outcome.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, once again, David, can you confirm, did that include the tipping fees? Were those looked after by the town, or was that looked after by the construction company?
That is a town cost. So I've only quoted you the number that I have, which is the out-of-pocket costs. The tipping fees, we would be paying ourselves to do that. And the $15,000, again, it's less than half of what we projected. Does not include tipping fees. And we can certainly get that. It is our building. It is material. We take stuff from the waterfront on a regular basis. So that number that I quoted is just the out-of-pocket cost to remove the building, $6,700, $6,600.
Okay.
Sorry, I just guess I want to clarify, will we see a final report at the end of this that will include town labor costs, the tipping fees, everything out? I realize it's not out of pocket, we're paying ourselves, but I myself am very interested to see that total cost if possible.
Yeah, we've talked that we would do that as part of our financial update. So this is part of the waterfront cleanup. There's lots of elements that go into the waterfront cleanup. And we're currently in the middle of waterfront cleanup. So that whole area is being cleaned up. We're actually planning on opening the beach this Friday. So as that progresses, we will do, as part of an overall financial report, we will do a report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further? I just wanted to make a comment about the letter about the cannabis retail store, the letter that we sent to the AGCO. I wonder if, that was sent just to the AGCO, I believe. And I think the comment in there about us not being circulated proactively on those files is a really valid point and concerning, frankly, to me. That's the second one now where we have to, our staff have to beat the bushes looking for these files. They could easily slip by, and if the media didn't pick them up or somebody else didn't pick them up, we might not even notice. I think the AGCO should know that we're concerned about that. I think we should CC this letter to Minister Thompson and to the Attorney General and particularly advise our MPP of the fact that, that's not satisfactory to us. The municipality should be circulated proactively on these files so that we can comment proactively. Can we do that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Absolutely, we can do that. It's frustrating for us. They have told us previously that we would be directly included in the circulation letter, so we will follow up that way. I also did want to comment, Mr. Mayor, I got a couple of emails from people that were confused on this location. This location is not in Southampton. There was an application, or there is an application for a location in Southampton. Staff provided a letter, a very similar letter to this, except that it did not support the location. That was on a council agenda earlier in May. This location and this letter is specific to a different application. This one is well south of the urban area of Port Elgin. So it meets all of the criteria for the policy, and that's why our letter is written as such.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further on the correspondence, then I will move on to section 9, report of department heads. And the first one is an information report, community services capital project update, and the director of community services.
Thank you. The impact of COVID has certainly delayed many capital projects and community services. However, since sanctions were relaxed, staff have been working in full force in order to get many of them completed. The report identifies projects that were in progress. These projects will be first priority to have completed. The second list are items that are on the cusp of commencing and should be completed within the coming months. Alternatively, there were some projects that will be delayed to 2021, and in some cases, those may be because they were partnership projects that relied on community group financial funding. And staff will continue to keep council updated on the status of capital projects.
Okay, thank you. Comments, questions from members? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jane. Jane, Lamont Sports Park, in my view, has been painfully slow unfolding. And, you know, we had that public meeting back up in the Rotary Hall last fall and late in the fall. 4 months went by before REACT met to look at the plans that had to be adjusted. From February to now is another 4 months have passed. And I think there's a meeting this Wednesday night. I just want you to know, and I want council to know, that you have some very frustrated people in this community wondering why the process is so slow. And I don't want to point to COVID-19. You can't blame everything on COVID-19. The consultant would be doing work in his home office. So I'm not sure why COVID-19 would slow down, why it took 8 months to get from the plans last fall to where we are today. So that I'm just expressing a frustration from the community, and it's what I'm hearing. So I've expressed that on behalf of the community. In terms of the business plan, are we going to see that in 2 weeks from now, Jane? Is that the plan in 2 weeks? And secondly, once council receives a plan and start to allocate funding towards that project, when do you see us going to tender for the first phase of the project, which means underground infrastructure work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly I can update you on the Lamont Sports Park. COVID did play an impact in the fact that the business plan was put on pause. It was an internal business plan that's being developed. Prior to that, I believe it was 5 to 6 months, and I may be exaggerating that a little bit. The consultant worked extremely closely with the advisory committee in developing the plans for the park. I can tell you those plans were changed numerous times, and rightly so. It takes a long process to ensure that the plans are developed in a way that is leaving a lasting legacy for our Ball community in Saugeen Shores. The chairperson is on council this evening too, and he may want to provide some input to that process, but certainly the plans were changed several times to ensure that the appropriate plans are in place moving forward. You are correct, there is a meeting tomorrow night with the consultant. The ball is being picked up again, so to speak. The final plans are being presented to the committee tomorrow night as an advisory committee. Staff have been working on the business plan. As I said, it was paused during COVID as community services has been extremely busy through COVID. It is our intention to present that to council, the business plan, within the coming weeks.
Okay. Oh, Mike,
You're muted,
You're
Vice
still
Deputy Mayor.
Just as a follow-up, sorry. Jane, the one question you didn't quite answer was if funding was allocated by council this June, July, we find the funding formula, we agree with the business plan, when would we be going to tender, and will we be in the ground this fall, do you think?
At this point, it's premature for me to answer that question. The group has not met for over 12 weeks. As I said, we're meeting tomorrow night to get our ducks in order. I don't want to speak on behalf of the committee. So at this point, I can't give you an answer for that. Like I said, we haven't met for 12 weeks. And if you allow us the time to regroup and to get our thoughts in place, the last meeting we had, we were confident with the final plan. As I said, it has changed numerous times. And we can't really develop a business plan until we have the exact plan in place as far as structure and what the committee was interested in. So those drawings, final draft, are going tomorrow night to the committee, and we'll be reporting back to council.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, the Deputy Mayor.
Just to add in on that. So in the process, we started with our wish list of everything we wanted. And then we quickly realized that what we really wanted was not financially responsible at that point. So we've come in with a couple of different designs, and in our last meeting, we came up with a concept that I think is going to meet our needs to start with. It's going to have a phased in approach, which is all dependent upon the money that we can come up with through the town and possibly grants that we're still waiting on, which were supposed to come in May and June. We put in a a huge grant application. And so we're still waiting on that. That's all been held up by COVID as well. So we were looking July, August, maybe. But once that all comes in, the plan is that we'll have one concept with a phased in approach to bring in everything. And we have a fundraising committee headed by Councillor Schreider, which has just started to meet, which is after our meeting tomorrow night. They're going to be able to have a better idea of what it is that they need to be looking to fundraise for. And they're going to town to try and raise as much money as they can.
Okay, yeah, and all of these things are going to be fundraising too will be subject to change in the era of COVID-19. So there's much to think about on this, and council is going to have some decisions to make on Lamont Park and what we're going to do, and so really it's the whole phasing. All those things is going to come down to us, what we're going to want to spend, how quickly we're going to want to proceed, and so it's early, as the director said, early to say when you can start construction, because we have to get something to decide on. I've been eager to see that too. So it sounds like we're going to see it soon. Committee's going to see it tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see it shortly thereafter. And we can start making some of those decisions and get things to proceed along the lines that we want to see them proceed. So yes, I know, and I think Vice Deputy Mayor is right. I've heard from many people who are eager to see that progress, and so I think most people around this table are too. So hopefully we can get back up on our feet here and get that moving along. Are there anything further on the director's report? The deputy mayor, and then I'll get Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, Jane, the Coliseum facade and change room concept design. I didn't know that we had put out for that, but when are you looking to have those preliminary drawings and concepts finished?
So we have just started working with the contractor or with the architect on that. It is a very small project, it's very conceptual drawings, so they are not detailed drawings. So I just want to be clear on that. Our project manager has met with staff on site once already. Another follow-up will be occurring. As I said, that this one was paused. It was on the cusp of starting, so I can't give you a definite date at this point.
Could you tell me, is it around the same idea that we were discussing earlier? How many dressing rooms we're looking at adding? Are they coming out to the north side of the building? Can you give me any idea of what we're looking at doing?
Yeah, certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. Those are some of the highlights that we certainly identified with the preferred architect to consider. Change rooms, facade that's accessible is priority, obviously. Ensure that the building is accessible to all. So expansion off to the north is considered for potential change rooms as well. And this is very, very preliminary. I want to be clear on that, just to give a sense of what could be at the Coliseum as we continue to grow.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Oh, sorry, Councillor Carr. I had you next. Councillor Carr.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess to you, Jane. I'm just curious if you can give me any kind of idea. The airport fuel tank project I see there, is that one still looking like it's going to be completed this season, or has it been pushed off for any reason?
No, a couple of hurdles and the fact that we're waiting for some contractors, but really a majority of the work has been done to date. So our project manager identified to me is confident that that will be done within the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else, then we can move on to the next report, which is an informational report, getting to work, investigating labor market challenges, and the Director of Strategic Initiatives.
Great, thank you. Good evening through you, Mr. Mayor. Not a whole lot more to add to this report. I'm really looking forward to the partnership with the University of Guelph, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Timing does align well, that it will give us a nice report as the pandemic recedes. It'll give us a good image locally in Saugeen Shores what our workforce challenges look like, as well as that data will then be quantified. So we'll have some real numbers that we can continue to work forward with for consideration of future initiatives for economic development and labor initiatives specifically. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the Director? Councillor Grace.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jess. I was happy to see this. I saw Ashley Whedon present at the Labor presentation that you organized, I guess maybe about 1.5 years ago or so at the museum. And I've read some of her published pieces, and I know she's an expert in rural economic development. And I was impressed by her presentation and what she's written. So I think for us to have this resource and to have it sponsored by Bruce Power, and I'm not sure if you pronounce that as MITAX, but I think that's great, because I know that, yes, we have a lot of regional similarities, but we do, as a town, with our growing population that we had between 2006 and the present, I think we have a special situation in that way. And so I was pleased to see this, and thank you for getting this together for us.
Thanks.
Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I did attend that workshop back in 2018, and it was well attended and well presented. And I did hear, the consultant that's about to be hired, I did hear her speak as part of the panel. Bruce County, Mr. Mayor, and I think you're receiving the report this week as part of Bruce County Council package, I think, or maybe it's the Planning Committee. Back in April 16th, the Planning Committee received a workforce attraction strategy phase 1 report. And the second phase, final report regarding workforce attraction will be in the hands of Bruce County this week. Jessica, I'm assuming you've read the Bruce County Workforce Strategy report that was prepared by staff. You've read that report?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. I just have a question about the study that's now completed by staff, the county. Jess, what quantitative data will our consultant be gathering that will be different from the Bruce County report?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Whedon, so as a PhD candidate working on this study, she'll be giving us numbers of what the shortage looks like, which industries, and some of the challenges. And that's really the data that we have been lacking. So in March 2018, pardon me, it was February 2018, in Ottawa, we spoke with a few MPs, the mayor, CIO David Smith, and myself, and we spoke about the labor shortage. And the message from the MPs from coast to coast was, do you have quantifiable data to be able to say these are the numbers of our shortage? So what we will see after our work with Ms. Whedon, the PhD candidate, is that quantifiable data, and it will be timely to post-pandemic. So I think that's a really unique opportunity. It's data that is different from January until certainly when we have that data after the pandemic. It'll give us a good snapshot.
Okay, my question really was how the data will be different. The quantitative data will be different from the Bruce County report that they just completed on the workforce attraction strategy. That was my question. I hope we're not duplicating, that's all. I just want to refer to the Bruce County Labor Force Study. Outlines 4 pillars: workforce knowledge, continuous data collection, workforce retention, how do we keep new and existing talent, workforce development, skills building, how do we enhance local skills, workforce attraction, how do we attract new talent. So there's a lot of great data from that report that the county have put together, and they've identified 8 key issues from the data collection. I read the report on the weekend, and most of their data, quantitative data, taken directly from the Jobs in Bruce website, which we're all familiar with. It's a good site, and county created that site last year. So there's plenty of data insight there, and I guess one of the questions, a couple more questions, but will our consultant be using the data that the county has already been collecting and using the workforce attraction strategy plan that the county has already put together? That's the first question, will our consultant be using that plan, that data? And you mentioned about quantitative, will it be qualitative as well? And my question, my thinking around qualitative is, will the consultant be conducting a survey? Will they be doing one-on-one meetings with our businesses to take it right down on the grassroots level to say, hey, look, how many employees do you have now? How many do you have before COVID-19? How many are you planning on hiring after COVID-19? Is that the kind of data that we're going to be collecting? And so there's two questions there. Will our consultant be using the Bruce County report? And will there be qualitative data collected as well, Jess?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions right now. I feel like that's a question that's best to ask the PhD candidate herself. I do believe, and I can assume that as part of her research, she'll be doing that content analysis, which would include looking at regional studies or studies that are comparable size to our community. So that's an assumption. And then with your second question, again, I do believe that's a question that's best asked to the PhD candidate rather than myself. I haven't been made privy to every step of the project. I've seen her objectives and the proposal that went through to MIDEX for approval. But I could certainly circle back with some specifics.
Yeah, I mean, it's your report. It's an information report. It's something that staff is saying we're doing. It's not a staff report with a recommendation. Staff are basically saying we're doing it. So it's your report. And I just wanted to know, when you talk about quantitative data, what are we trying to achieve? So at the end of the day, when the consultant has the report done, and we've got this, and you've referenced it many times in your report about quantitative data, how's it going to be used? And when you say the mayor met with 5 MPs across the country, and they said, have you got quantitative data? What doors does that open up to have quantitative data? So 2 questions there. How is the quantitative data going to be used? And how is that going to leverage support from the federal provincial government with having quantitative data to help our local business?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the conversations that was in the context with the MPs, the conversation was specific around temporary foreign worker programs and how, if there's space for an agency, so the agriculture community has a certain agency that supports temporary foreign workers coming in and supports the employer to have those workers land and expand and help their business. And it's a very important program, as we are all aware. So there's a number of service and retail businesses that had reached out during 2018, 2019, suggesting that for them to go through with a temporary foreign worker application, it's not something they're experts at. There's minimums they need to meet. They have to meet minimum employee numbers. There's a number of steps involved. And so our conversation in 2018 in Ottawa was with MPs asking if there's a way to access temporary foreign worker programs, so federal programs, to support service and retail. And when we were in Ottawa, the message really was also that we're the fastest growing community, household incomes, great opportunity for entrepreneurs, businesses. We've got a shortage, and that's what we'd heard. So there is access into federal programs if you can prove the quantifiable data with the quantifiable data. So being able to say we have 300 vacancies, we have 600 vacancies in this industry. Can you help us do that? Can you help us access programs? That's really when the evidence-based approach and the quantifiable data will be leveraged through that avenue.
Thanks for that. And just two last comments, Mr. Mayor. And I would highly recommend that our consultant from University of Guelph take a look at the Bruce County report that's just been done on the workforce attraction strategy. It's a great report. And the final report is going to Bruce County. I believe it's planning or council this week. I'm not sure which, but it's moving forward. And so I highly recommend that our consultant use the data that's already collected. And I guess the other comment would be, Mr. Mayor, back in December, January, I presented a request to this council for dollars to hire a heritage consultant for Heritage and Cultural Master Plan. You took a stance, Mr. Mayor, on waiting to see what the county results were of their plan that they're doing, that let's not spend that right now. Let's see what turns out with the county plan, with the information they've gathered. I kind of liken it this to a little bit with all the great work that county staff are doing with this workforce strategy. I guess I'm not quite understanding why we would turn down the Heritage Cultural Plan in favor of waiting to see what the county comes up with. But for this one, we're not using the county data. So that's a little confusing to me.
I don't think they've said that they're not going to use the county data. I'm pretty sure that this is proceeding without cost to the town. So it's not really a request for funding from us. It's an opportunity to gather some more data, particularly, I mean, this might have proceeded a while back, I guess, but it's taken this long to get going, and it's actually fortuitous that it is, because it's giving us the opportunity to look at the labor market at a moment when it's in a particularly strained moment. So this will be unique data that I'm hoping we can use not only to help gather that quantitative data locally that we'll need to give businesses access to programs, primarily federal programs, but other programs, but also to look at the specific situation around labor and COVID-19 and things we may need to do, in the coming number of months, a year or two, to ameliorate that. One thing I'm seeing and hearing about a lot out there is businesses trying to reopen and unable to get labor right now, the labor that they used to have, probably as a result of things like inadequate access to childcare and other things. But having the data is key, and having the data as locally as possible is key. This is a great way to get that. We can get this PhD student to work on this, and it's being sponsored for us, so we get to get the benefit of that without the cost, and some very targeted local data that will hopefully help us make some decisions about how to help our local labor force. So I'm excited to see it. I think Councillor Mayette had a comment. Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And just through all this conversation, I have become a little bit confused in this as well. I saw this as a tremendous opportunity for the town. We have a PhD student and a not-for-profit organization who are willing to come in and look at Saugeen Shores discreetly, because let's face it, the labor and the economic situations in Saugeen Shores are quite different than they are in most other places in Bruce, and certainly Grey and Bruce County. We're a lot different here than they are in say Tara or in Hanover, and our market challenges are much different. So if we've got a group that wants to come in and do this for free and look at all the available data input from previous studies and on the ground current data post COVID and pre-COVID, then I think we should do nothing else but welcome this opportunity and welcome this young person to come in and do this study and share the knowledge. And I'm sure there's going to be some obvious things, and I'm sure there's going to be some surprising things that come out of this. But by all means, I think we should welcome this opportunity wholeheartedly and open-armed. Thank you.
Okay, if there's anything further on the director's report? The CAO.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank Jessica for her leadership in this. The partnership with the University of Guelph and Ashley is a result of the respect and the high esteem that the economic development profession has in Jessica, and her work and Heather's work to put us on their radar and on their map. As a number of you were at the session, it was very well received by the community. Jessica has other information coming out related to other initiatives that Saugeen Shores is being asked to participate in because of the good work she and her team are doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's no question this is a very high priority for our community, addressing the labor shortage issue, and so we're keen to work on that and looking forward to results. So with that, how about we move on then to the North Shore Trail and Road report. And this is from both the Director of Community Services and the Director of Infrastructure and Development. I don't know which one of them wants to take the ball. Looks like the Director of Community Services. So how about we turn it over to her?
Thank you. And through you, certainly we wanted to keep council abreast of what's occurring since the last time we met in regards to the active transportation corridor along North Shore Road and Miramichi Bay Road. The recent survey that was launched to the public that was seeking input from the community and visitors was actually closed on Friday, and over 1,500 submissions were received. Staff is still deciphering the feedback and thanks everyone for their time that they took to complete the submissions. Additionally, letters with specific comments have been received, and staff are also considering that input as part of the final recommendations. Staff will continue to evaluate the project and make adjustments. Ideally, a reduced area for one-way is being considered from McVicar to Hilly Lane. Therefore, from Hilly Lane heading north would be considered two-way, but only for local traffic heading south to Hilly Lane. This temporary one-way proposal could continue to be used by all active transportation users, including those who prefer to take a leisurely walk to watch the sunset, families teaching children how to ride their bikes, or even those traveling from point A to point B. The report includes comments from both the fire and police chief who have indicated that one-way option will not impact their ability to respond to emergencies. Since the construction of the trail, there has been a considerable increase in both vehicles using the road and active transportation users looking for a safe access. Limited clear sight lines make it difficult to provide a clear, safe 1 meter space when passing cyclists on this road, and typically means the driver speeds up beyond the speed limit in order to pass cyclists. Staff will be presenting a recommendation at the next council meeting on June 22nd, which will include costing for a temporary one-way for council's consideration. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions with regard to that report? We're going to be receiving a report in 2 weeks, so there'll be time for debate on the central issue at that point. But Councillor Carter, do you have a thing?
Yeah, thank you through Mr. Mayor. I guess just a couple of quick questions towards Jane and Amanda, I guess, with this one. With the Shore Road repairs, I understand the cycling path is definitely a priority for our citizens and our tourists that come here. Myself, I feel like the vehicle traffic should have priority. I'm wondering through when we've reached out to talk to residents and stuff like that, have we thought about reaching out to talk to the construction companies that use the 10th and come in that way as opposed to coming through town for traffic? Or, you know, when it comes to the boat moving and stuff like that, when we start getting into oversized loads that always come in down the 10th and down that way, is it going to start affecting some of the other businesses as well as the residents if we were to do that? And then kind of as a follow-up question, I'd seen it and I've had the comment thrown at me from a few people, is with the DFO project hopefully coming to a conclusion soon down at the beach, is it possible to have any of that stone repurposed down along the Shore Road so that we're not paying a trucking fee to go way back to wherever it is? You know, it was clean enough to be used in the project down there. Is it something that can be just trucked there to help shore up what we've got to make it useful, or something that we can at least fill in those voids to make it a little bit safer or protect our infrastructure that's there already? And I guess also as a follow-up, is this something that we can do? Is this something, Amanda, that you can do in-house as an engineer, or is it something that we absolutely have to use a consultant and go, I guess whatever agency would look after doing something along the shoreline?
I'll handle a bunch of those for you, Matt, and then Jane can add in the end. We didn't talk to construction companies about the access into the subdivision or the area that way. No, didn't do that. The rock down by the harbor, yes, that could be reused. We've been talking to Sea Waves about what the cost of having us keep that material would be. We need a certain diameter, but angular riprap is a great material for that use. I've submitted a Conservation Authority permit already. I did that earlier today to get some interim repairs done. So even though it just seems like superficial work, we still need to go through them to get approval to remove the asphalt and to regrade down that slope. The design has reduced the slope steepness. So right now it's a 2-to-1 slope, and that's one of the bigger reasons why the rock is coming down. So there's a bit of grading work to be done along that. Placement of concrete blocks. So that would need to be external forces. So we'd put out a request for quote to get some local contractors that would be better suited to do that work. And hopefully we would be able to do that this fall so that that would be in place for two-way traffic in the winter for North Shore Road.
Okay,
Did I get all of them?
Yeah, sorry. So I guess just the one thing I want to take away from that then. So currently the rock and stuff that's in the lake right now being used as the access road out to the break wall at this time. That's something that it's not going to be a cost incurred by us for the trucking away and stuff, even if we didn't use it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure what the contract with DFO for that was, but the trucking away or removal of that road would have been an item in that contract originally. So now we're seeing if there's the ability for it to be left in a place that we can access it for ourselves, or the contractor that we hire could access to use it for the shore. I guess you had one of your last questions I didn't respond to was, does it have to be engineered? So the interim solution is fine. I can do that under my seal, but a coastal engineer is required by Saugeen Valley and DFO to do an ultimate long-term, more than just the repair that we're doing now. They'd like to see us look at the wave uprush and the dynamic beach actions that are acting on that edge of the slope.
Okay, thank you. That's good for now. Thank you.
the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. One big point I want to make clear here right at the moment to everybody that's watching is this is just an information report tonight. We have just closed the information gathering on Friday when all of the surveys were supposed to be coming in. So our staff is going to have to look at that and they will make an informed decision on that. But whatever decision we make, we also have to look at a couple things. One, Saugeen Shores is an active transportation town. Whatever we do, we have to meet the needs of all the people who live in town, who come to town and seek active transportation roads. We have just recently been declared a bronze level bicycle friendly community. And to move to silver designation, we got to make sure that we keep what we have and upgrade any bicycle routes that we have. And finally, that part of the road is also part of the Blue Water Cycling Road that goes from Windsor all the way up to Midland. So, we're going to do what's best for everybody involved. So if it's a slight temporary change for 2 months, it may affect some people, but we'll do what's best for that. But if not, our staff is going to make the best decision that's going to affect the most people.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, we're going to have a fulsome debate on this in a couple of weeks. I suspect it'll be an interesting debate when it happens. But for now, I don't see any more hands going up. So why don't we move on then to, so that's just a map. So the next one is 9.4, refreshment vehicle on town land. And does the clerk have comments on that one?
Deputy Clerk.
Deputy Clerk. The Deputy Clerk, Gracie.
Hi there. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Each year we do a request for proposal for refreshment vehicles on town land. This year we received only one proposal from Orzo's Grill, which is owned by Peggy Coffee, and they also operate the canteens at both arenas here in Saugeen Shores. Normally the site that they bid on is the Port Elgin Main Beach, is located in the flea market area, sort of in the pavement part there. But due to the construction and the various activities that are happening down there, the same site may not be possible. Staff are working with the applicant to find a suitable location in the general area, and they do hope to be open with a limited menu next weekend. If you have any questions, I can help you.
That's excellent news. I spoke to Ms. Coffey a couple of weeks ago, and she was eager to get started. And so I'm glad to hear we found a way to accommodate her. I know lots of people out there are missing those fries that they can normally get in the arenas and can't these days. So, so I'm glad to hear that there's going to be an avenue to do that. And thank you to staff for finding a way. I know it's difficult. It's been difficult this year to figure out how to make those things work, and you've done that, and I certainly appreciate it. I know council does too. So.
Thank you.
I think that brings to the end of the committee of the whole agenda. So we'll just have announcements by members. The Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. just want to say that as our beaches open up, our staff will be working hard to get the beaches clean, our washrooms and garbage containers out and open. So please, everybody that's coming here and using our facilities, be neat and help us keep the beaches open.
Thank you. Vice Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Schreider.
Good memory.
I pretend that you're here and I look there and
Fair
there. I
enough.
find you. Councillor Schreider.
I have two things for tonight, if you don't mind. The Saugeen Rail Trail has installed a sign and officially recognized the section of trail from the 10th concession to the River Street trailhead as the Jane McDougall Pathway. Jane generously donated funds to have this section of the trail asphalted. So it's just a great, very generous donation, a great community partnership, and wonderful work again for the trail development in Saugeen Shores by the Saugeen Rail Trail. So I wanted to recognize that. The sign is installed now, so it looks great. And the second thing that I just wanted to mention is June is Pride Month. This month and celebrations is extremely important across the world and in our community of Saugeen Shores. There are many people that need support, sometimes only find support during events and celebrations of Pride Month. We generally see parades, flag flying, ceremonies, and great celebrations. This year with COVID, our typical celebrations will not occur. I encourage those, and I encourage everybody to find a way to celebrate, to find a way to support those who need it, and to continue to be strong, continue to be proud, and be proud of who you are and who you love. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. This evening, first of all, I apologize for being late this evening, but I was taking part in what I believe is a truly monumental activity here in Saugeen Shores. I had an opportunity and a privilege to participate in a gathering of folks in Southampton put on by the Saugeen Shores Against Racism group. It was in honor of George Floyd. Several hundred members of our community took part in a very safe and respectful manner. I saw not one person who was not wearing a mask. We knelt for 8 minutes and 46 seconds to honor the life of George Floyd. It was tremendous. And I think not only of the organizers, I think the individuals who took time on short notice to be part of it, whether they were there in person or whether they were paying tribute in their own way. And I also want to pay special thanks to the Chief of Police and members of our police force who participated. It was a graceful and respectful signification of our community. So thank you.
Thank you for that. How about Councillor Rich?
Very little, just keep staying safe, social distance. I think that this is an important time. We want to make sure that we get out of this and do our best not to have a second wave. Buy local, help look after our local businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to just acknowledge the fact that our Attainable Housing Task Force Committee, led by the Vice Deputy Mayor, has had 2 meetings now. Our last one was on June 3rd. And we had presentations from the town of the Blue Mountains, talking about their housing corporation that they put together and some of their strategies, which was very instructive information and helpful, and also Bruce County. And I just wanted to commend the good ongoing work of the committee members, the volunteers and residents who are participating, and led by our chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not very much, just maybe just a recognition for all of the citizens and the volunteers who have made fishing a hobby in Saugeen Shores since the opening of fishing for municipal properties. There's been a huge upswing, and the town pond has become a very popular place for young people and their parents even to go down and experience a really good fishing opportunity. And thanks to those residents who are practicing catch and release, so that the diminished numbers of fish that are in the pond due to We had a lot of problem with predation from birds this year. But thanks to those people who are practicing catch and release so that everybody gets a chance. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment from me tonight. You'll have seen that there was another series of announcements today from the province of Ontario about new things that are being reopened, which is by and large good news. I wanted to point out for the public's information that those announcements will apply, as you'll see, to certain municipal facilities and activities. Sometimes in the past several weeks, we get an announcement like that, and then the public, I start getting emails. I'm sure all of you do too, about why isn't the municipality opening this or opening that? And of course, we have only just found out today, just like everybody else. And so we now are going to have to start thinking about how we're going to proceed to open our facilities, the ones that we're allowed to open, in a way that's safe. And there's a lot of requirements and a lot of public health advice on how to do that. And we need to, as a municipality, absorb that information, figure out safe ways to operate facilities, whether they be things like splash pads or you name it. That's not easy work, and it will take time. So the municipality is aware of those announcements, and we're going to proceed. And I can also say that in some cases, some of those decisions may indeed have to come back to council, because they will come with cost and change, because we'll have our changes to the way we need to operate. So these things will take time, I'm sure, and so I ask for patience from the community as we do that. And I also wanted to point out, I've heard some comments in the last few days about the beaches, and folks concerned about the beaches, and there are some new announcements today from neighboring municipalities about beaches starting to reopen it one way or another. I think the commonality between all of us is that we're going to be watching what's happening, not only in the beaches, but in parks and facilities across the municipality, and in partnership with public health. It's just like with everything, as things reopen, as things start to relax and we can do more and more in our lives, we need to remember that means we have to double down on things like wearing masks in retail stores, double down on things like social distancing. If you can be out in a grocery store or out at a splash pad or out on a beach, that's great. But that means you have to be extra responsible about how you behave in those settings, so as to avoid having to have those things shut down again, which will invariably happen if COVID-19 starts to spike. And we will be watching those things to make sure that public health is protected while we reopen. So I ask everyone in the community to do what they have to do, what public health is asking us to do, to be safe while we reopen. And in that spirit, I'm hoping that all members of council brought along their masks, because I'd like to get us all to put our masks on, and we'll get a screenshot of this. And this is the message here to everybody in the community: is wear masks when in retail stores. Our retailers rely on you to do that. So here you go. I tell you all to smile, but it doesn't matter whether you smile or not. Nobody can see it. So anyway, here we go. Oop. Tell us when the picture is done. We got it?
You're good.
Good, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, and with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Grace. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Let's just take 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 7:40. I will call to order this regular council meeting. And the second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. I'll ask any member if they have a pecuniary interest they'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can do so anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no public meetings, so that takes us on to adoption of minutes. And I will need a mover and seconder that council adopt the minutes of the council meetings of May 25, 2020, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of May 25, 2020 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Smith. Any questions or comments to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. That moves us then on to report of Committee of the Whole. And the first report is a general government report regarding sidewalk, patio, and cafe encroachment policy. And I will need a mover and seconder. The Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the general government report dated May 25th, 2020 regarding the temporary amendments to the sidewalk, patio, and cafe policy. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Rich. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. That moves us then on to the second report, an infrastructure and development report regarding Blue Box program and Bruce Road 25 trees. And I'll need a mover and seconder. The Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the infrastructure and development report dated May 25th, 2020 regarding the Blue Box program and the Bruce Road 25 trees. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Schreider. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. That then moves us on to bylaws. And there are 7 bylaws there for your consideration. Does anyone, well, 6 bylaws, I guess minus the confirmatory bylaw. Does anyone want to have any one of those bylaws taken out for individual consideration? Seeing none, then I will seek a mover and seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 8th day of June 2020. 1/36/2020 being a bylaw to authorize an amendment to a site plan agreement with 10691-850 Ontario Incorporated and 2260682 Ontario Incorporated for 560 Ivings Drive. 2/37/2020 being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with Canadian Apartment Properties Real Estate Investment Trust at 332 Concession 6, Town of Saugeen Shores. 3/38/2020 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of a lease agreement with the Southampton Marine Heritage Society for the Southampton Boathouse. 4/39/2020 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement with the Southampton Marine Heritage Society for the Peerless 2 tour boat. 5/40/2020 being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with Henry Thalen and Cindy Thalen for the stand-up paddleboard business. 6/41/2020 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 75/2006 by Blue Water Pork Production Limited for lands described as 5103 Bruce Road 3, Town of Saugeen Shores. And 7/42/2020 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings at the council meetings of the corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Rich. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. So finally, that moves on to adjournment. I'll need a mover and seconder. This regular council meeting of June 8th, 2020 hereby adjourns at 7:45 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? As carried, we stand adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.